had been immersed in before and knew a lot about, or did it involve a fair amount of research and listening?
Well, it's one of those things. It's that self-contained thing again, where my sort of production skills are wanting, and so that's one of the things that I could do all right on GarageBand, was layer lots of vocals, and you get a bit of an atmosphere with that, and you can get away with more with that. And you know, I wouldn't begin to be able to make you a drum beat or a string arrangement.
That primitive.
That primitive, yeah. Okay. And it's all the things that I could just about make sound good enough on a demo to try and encourage to explain the project to people, which so that's when I sent it to Marcus. It was just that.
Marcus Draves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's lots of chopped together takes on piano, where I would get it and sort of good enough that I think someone could listen to it without me having to explain what would actually be there. And then lots of layered vocals and a little bit of guitar, and that was about it, really.
When I've talked to you before over the years, I've always yearned to ask you about specific lyrics and never dared to, because I've sensed how deeply uncomfortable you would be being asked to discuss your lyrics.
I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this bit.
But I'm not going to. I will do that later. Yeah, but I won't do that now. But actually, I just wanted to ask both of you about talking about the creative process, because we see the results. We see it as this kind of mystical process that we can't help but want to know about, even if we just enjoy absorbing the results, like Ralph we were talking about before, Ralph, or your lyrics. But is it something you ever get better at doing, talking about the creative process, or is it just something you think, well, what am I supposed to say for it? Here is the creative process, which is the results. You see what I mean?
I remember Vic Reeves being asked the question, where do your characters come from? And he said, out of our minds. And I thought it's actually a very good answer, because you can't, unless you specifically have, you hear something that is an impersonation, then you can pinpoint where a character comes from. But usually it's a lot of different things that contribute to the final finished article. And in this, obviously there are, many. I was going to ask you actually, where'd you get your idea for your characters from?
I'll be off.
Yeah. So why did you come up with the Gritterman? Because of that lonely, sort of pitted against the elements.
Yeah, a little bit.
That, yeah.
And also because
why whoever thinks about a fucking Gritterman? I mean, seriously, you don't. Yeah.
Well, because I think at one point the chorus in the song was seasonal hero something, and I thought that it's a better character if it's not an obvious hero. It's sort of more romantic if it's everyday, and yeah.
Well, you should be a bit mistrustful of heroes, shouldn't you? So
yeah. That's what I found.
That's quite deep, actually.
Thank you for that. You want to take, but talking about seasonal hero, I think that the thing that I am interested in why the Gritterman, like as Paul says, but I'm also interested in these themes, as I've said before. Like these, I do think you've always been quite interested in the kind of permanence and impermanence. The things that stay the same and the things that disappear and wither. And in the Gritterman, it's beautiful because he's kind of doing a recap of his life, and I think the way that you write prose leans on your lyric writing in the way that it kind of ebbs and flows and the rhythms and stresses of it. But it's beautiful in the way that you tell a story incredibly simply, and you can read it in an incredibly simple way. But are you trying to communicate more than you obviously are, surely, more than the surface story, because the surface story is he goes out on Christmas Eve he does his
Don't
final
tell
thing. Spoiler, sorry. And that's what you're writing when you're writing it. But are you aware now that there's something else kind of working beneath that? I mean, it could be anything from climate change to downsizing, that kind of chill, one of the most chilling words in the world, I think. But, you know, and are you aware of a kind of agenda, or perhaps that's...
No, I think one of the main reasons for making the monologue as simple as possible, and for the way that he communicates when he's speaking, to be as sort of straightforward as it is that means that there's more room for the lyrics and for the songs to do the other side of things. And so there is a little bit of that, and then there's also the thing of I think the smaller the story is, the easier it is to slip those other things in there.
Yeah.
And that's why really great pop songs are really great pop songs, because you can listen to it and it's a pleasure, or it moves you in a certain way, or you can listen to it and it totally changes your mind about something. And that's all the really good things do that. And I was speaking to someone the other day about The Simpsons, and how if I were to watch a Simpsons episode that I had watched as a 12-year-old or whatever, then I would read it completely differently.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it's the 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. Sorry, it's the 12-year-old bit.
I was.
Yeah, well, I wasn't.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think you're trying to do is give people the option of a quick fix, or if and then it's completely up to the person to decide how much time they want to spend with it.
And the other option, of course, is that it can be read as this book,
Mm-hmm.
or it can be listened to as a record.
Yep.
And would you be content, I mean, not that you've got any control over it, but would you be content for someone just to listen to the record and not...
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, it is out of your hands, but it's designed as an optional thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, my job is to make the thing, and then that's the end of it, really. I mean, obviously, doing things like this and trying to promote the book and the project, and think about the project and try and explain it, and half explain it to myself, so that the next time I settle down to do something again, I've spent some time thinking about why something worked or why something didn't work. Then
I'm a stepping stone now.
But the idea, the surface thing and the stuff gurgling underneath it, which is very much what you were just talking about. I mean, Ralph and Ted is absolutely that, because Ralph and Ted, you can just look at it at the top field and the kind of the daftness of it, but it's tragic, Ralph and Ted.
Well, it's the love that dare not speak its name, or